All right, guys, welcome to episode 9 of Rooting for Laundry. I'm your host, Johnny McDonald. You can follow us, Root for Laundry, on IG and Twitter at Root for Laundry. It'll show up on the ticker. Where is the ticker? There it is. Follow us at IG and Twitter at Root for Laundry. Thank you for coming on. This is episode 9. So thank you for listening. You can find the channel on YouTube, or you can find it on the Rooting for Laundry Facebook page. And we're on Twitter as well. So thanks again. I know these are tough times in the world, and I know there's a lot of problems and with social injustice and stuff, but hopefully we could this could be a distraction. At the same time, focus on the task at hand. And once again, I thank you. Today, we're going to cover the LA Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious franchise in all of sports. Played in Los Angeles for the last 60 years. Iconic players, championships, second all-time in championships with 16, one away from the Boston Celtics with 17. And joining us today were some diehard Laker fans. And my first guest is good guy, funny comedian, performs all over the country, and he's on the SUP podcast, Sneakerhead podcast. If you enjoy those expensive sneakers or cheap sneakers, give it up for Lawrence DeLoach.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, man?
What's up, Johnny? Thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for being had. We appreciate you.
Oh yeah.
And our other guest today, hip hop artist. All his music is on all major streaming platforms. You can find him on there, and you can also listen to him on the Don't Try This at Home Wrestling podcast. Give it up for Heartbreak, Julio.
Yes.
Julio, how you doing, my brother?
Building.
Well, we in the building for sure, man.
Sir.
Man, thanks you for joining us, man. I appreciate you.
Good,
Don't try
bro.
this at home radio, man. Don't try this at home radio. Funny, it's like wrestling. It's like listening. If you ever listen to it, it's like talking wrestling in a barbershop.
Yeah,
right?
it's like
vibe.
block talk. It's just the same
Yep.
barbershop talk. We chop it up about wrestling like as if anything. You chop it up with anything in the culture. It's just good time, shit talking. We may drink some Henny in there, might smoke some bud in there. You know what I mean? It's a vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cooler though. Yeah, you know how it go.
Word. And Lawrence, your package, the SUP podcast is sneaker. Yes, like I said, I had this discussion with you. I'm Stephen Barry, $20 Starberries all the way. You know what I'm saying? I can't.
Those are classics, man. They sold out all over the country, man. Marbury put out a great sneaker, bro.
I wouldn't say the quality. I think the price, not the quality, because I ran through maybe one pair every 4 weeks, so I really got what I paid for. So
no, that was it was a difference. You know, you had the Jordans that were $200 versus these $20 Marburys, but it was price affordable and it was great, man.
Yeah, and then I think Al Harrington tried to do the same thing. I forgot the name. Do you remember Al Harrington put out sneakers in Kmart, I think?
Nah, I don't remember that. That's hilarious, man.
There were a little bit more, and out of all guys, Al Harrington. No disrespect to Al, but
that's hilarious, man.
You gotta come down. You gotta come down to those Starberry prices.
Yes, sir.
Somebody was to be interested. But let's get to it. The reason why we're here, you both are big diehard Laker fans, and Lawrence, I'll start with you. What got you in there?
In the mid 90s, around 94ish. I grew up in Brooklyn. You was either a Knicks fan or you were a Michael Jordan fan at that time. And I used to collect basketball cards all the time. And my mom got me the Beckett's price guide booklet that you would get every month. And it had the team address, in the back of the book, like different team locations. And I would send letters to players. I would ask them for autographed cards. I sent out like 40, 50 letters. The only one that replied was Nick Van Exel. So
wow,
real
Nick
one
the Quick. Nobody else but Nick the Quick, man.
Yeah.
So you got stuck from there. Yeah, makes sense, man.
I still have that.
Back.
I still have that basketball card. We talking over 25 years, bro. I still have that basketball card.
That's dope, man. So yeah, Nick the Quick made you a fan, man. That's dope. All right, I'll get to you, Jules. How did you become a Laker fan?
So it's kind of exactly like what Lauren said. Like, I was in Queens, so especially around that time, you either a Jordan fan or you with the Knicks. So I was a Jordan fan. It felt weird rooting for the Knicks when he retired. So I was like, damn, I can't root for the Knicks. I can't mess with Xavier Daniels and them. Even though, Starks lit the city up with that dunk, I'm like, just didn't feel right. So
Gotcha.
I was like, I always thought back at teams that I liked, and it was because of my cousins. They used to have all the Bulls versus Blazers, Lakers versus Celtics game. Everybody would be quick to take Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. So I got into the Lakers because I liked the color, the yellow jersey stood out to me. And I liked playing with Magic. So from there, anything obsessive. So then to classic sports, I was doing all like the research on the Lakers and just a team. Then Jordan came back, so I was kind of like stuck. Like, damn, Jordan back, but then Magic back. So it was like, yo, I'm just riding with the Lakers. And then after that, I love like Nick Van Exel and Cedric Ceballos, Eddie Jones, Roddy Divac. I just thought Nick was cool because he had the cuts in his eyebrow.
Yeah.
So,
funny you mentioned those, like, those you mentioned those EA Sports games. I remember like every player had like a signature move. Like Jordan, I see why people pick Jordan because he had the up and under move. Like you've never seen that before in a video game. You like, or like Magic had the no look into the layup joint. I remember, all those, every player had a signature move. And when Bulls versus Lakers, I think one of the hardest moves on there. If you ever picked the Warriors, Tim Hardaway had that
UTEP two-step.
And I remember being so frustrated because I couldn't do it. You had to do it. Remember the speed of the game was very slow. So it was kind of, you play it now, you're like, oh my God, this game is, you know what I'm saying? So I think when you had the Tim Hardaway, you had to go up the foul line and then he'll come down, do the step and some funky layup. But I remember being frustrated playing that game. So it's with a lot of fun times, man, with those games. So y'all got it right in 94, like 95. So like that's Del Harris's first year. They're coming off the year before they missed the playoffs for the first time since like 1976. So that's insane. So like you said, you got Eddie Jones, Cedric Ceballos, Nick the Quick, and they have their first Eldon Campbell, and they have a winning year of 48 and 34, and they go to the second. They beat Seattle in 4 games. That's when the game was best of 5. In the second round, they lose to San Antonio in 6. So the following year, same team, but a big announcement, January 30th, 96, Magic Johnson comes back, and he's little bit bigger, Fat Magic, as we call him. Talk to Lawrence. I'll start with you first. About were you excited when Magic came back?
Yeah, I was really excited because obviously, like growing up, I was young enough that I didn't see point guard Magic in the 80s. You know, I didn't really start watching the NBA until the early 90s. So my only time really seeing Magic was the 91 finals against the Bulls. And then obviously seeing him in the All-Star game in 92, but he was a retired player, and the Dream Team. So, you didn't see Magic. Now, obviously, he's not point guard Magic. He's heavier, but it was still it was insane to see, especially the fact that Mike Jordan had came back the year before from his retirement. Magic came back. So you're kind of like, wow, this is kind of like the old days, but it's not. It's a new era. So
a lot of people forget that because it was it was just like half the season, but it was fun to watch. Julio, do you remember any memories when Magic came back? How did you feel?
I remember it being like a big thing, man. It was really dope to see, especially because like my sister had HIV. God bless the dead, Tasha. So I seen her struggles with it. I seen her be like inspirational with that. So to see Magic do that for the community was dope. And it's just Magic. Like it was like because I always, like I said, I watched it on Classic Sports. I never got to see it live, so I was like, oh shit, I'm about to see Magic live, like during the games. I remember it was on TNT, the Golden State game. It was just like big. It was big time television. You know what I'm saying? It was right on time. I wanted to see how he matched up with Michael. You know what I mean? Like it was just a good time, man. Even though it wasn't like, yeah, he was fat, man, but he still had that move.
He really did, man. Yep, they
Bob.
put him at power forward. I always thought, like, in the early 90s watching Magic, it was like, it was unfair because he was a 6'9" point guard and he was the only one. Like, an average size point guard was in between maybe 6 feet and 6'4". And here comes big ass Magic, just towering over whoever. Well, it was a matchup nightmare for any team because you had to put somebody, you couldn't put a point guard on him. He was too tall. So you had to switch it up. You had to, like, put on, it was just different because Magic comes at you. He can play any position, so he comes at you in so many different ways, and that's what made Magic so great and so, like, deceiving. You know what I'm saying? For a big guy to move that quick, and even though he could dunk, he most of the time I think he just laid it up to just to, you know, just as like, all right, I can't, you know, I'm a point guard, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna dunk on anybody. And Magic's, like, the importance of Magic, like Julio said about, you know, him contacting HIV, which is, like, you know, at the time he was, to me, or probably to you guys, the first athlete you think of when, you know, when it first happens. It's so new to us, and he made everybody, like Julio said, he made the community aware what, you know, how HIV and like affects people, and if you take care of yourself, you can overcome it, and, like, just make people made it known that this is serious. Am I right?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, like you know, you had like Arthur Ashe and Greg Louganis, like those guys had, you know, they got HIV, and it was almost like you just saw them, like, shrivel away in a sense. You know, it was like looked at as a death sentence, and even for Magic, you know, there was the drawback of certain players didn't want to play with him. You know, I
remember that. Yeah,
guys like Karl Malone. You know, he looked at
Barkley. Yeah,
Barkley.
Barkley was very vocal about it too, and I kind of understand, but we don't know what it is. That I think it's so new to everybody. So I guess you know, if you educate yourself, then you're like, you know, now, you know, he did playing in the All-Star game and in the Dream Team, so everybody was like, now it's like, okay. We're good. You know what I'm saying?
But it was. I mean, it was interesting to me because obviously, and for people that saw the old Magic play, and then the the older Magic playing with the young Lakers team, it was just a different era. And obviously, you know, he there was points where he struggled because, I mean, you know, he got into. You know, he bumped the referee. I mean, that's not the Magic that we knew. But I mean, I think Magic was just kind of like he was kind of like lost in the world. Remember, he coached the Lakers. So, you know, it's almost like the Jordan on the Wizards. You know, I mean, even though we never really talk about that part of Magic, like you know, this is like the post Showtime. Obviously, you know, like no expectations on that team, but. Yeah, it was great to see it though for Magic. Yeah,
well, he ends up helping them and leading them to the playoffs. They have a 53-29 record. They lose to Houston in 5.
I hate that series. Hated that series.
Yeah. So I think this is the big turnaround for you guys. The offseason 96, man. 96 NBA draft, clearly one of the deepest drafts of all time. If you remember, it was like Iverson, Camby, Abdul-Rahim, Marbury, Ray Allen, Antoine Walker, Peja, Steve Nash, Jermaine O'Neal, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, one of the deepest drafts. Charlotte Hornets had the number 13th pick, and Jerry West makes the biggest trade that basically changes the face of the franchise, possibly forever, in trading for Kobe Bryant. And it's an interesting story before, like, because Kobe wasn't on Charlotte's radar. First, let me ask you, Julio, do you ever remember hearing or about Kobe before that draft coming up?
When I was a little younger, so I wasn't really tapped in, but I did remember like when he first came out that they started showing his highlights of him and Lower Marion and stuff like that. And then my boys, because I had my boy who was really into like even at a young age knew about high school plays and shit like that. So he would tell me like, "Yo, Kobe back." To be like, was I tapped in? I wasn't really tapped in until he first came in the league. But when I do my research and then I get to know him as the player and become my favorite player, I realize you hear all these legendary stories. I was watching All the Smoke podcast not long. You still hearing like fresh legend. I didn't even know he was doing a camp with Kevin Hart and shit like that. It's like that Jelly Bean era was really legendary, man.
Yep. Yeah. What about you, Lawrence? Did you hear anything about Kobe like before that?
I heard that the kid was he was talented, but in '96, you got to realize there weren't many high school players to make the jump to the NBA. So you look, and especially a guard, it was more like it was a big man. Like the year before,
He was actually the first guard to get drafted out of high school.
There you go. You had you had Kevin Garnett, you know what I mean? And there were,
Moses.
Moses, and a lot of those times they were bigs and there was hardship cases. But Kobe, he had the talent and you knew it. But I mean, obviously there were players like Ray Allen, who was a super established at UConn, AI, who at Georgetown was the man. You had all these guards who even Kerry Kittles, who ahead of him, and Villanova. But obviously Kobe and even what's so crazy is Kobe dictated. Him and his agent at the time, Arn, they were like, "Yo, we want to play for LA." And a lot of us know the story of the John Calipari. Like Calipari had the pick with the Nets. He was picking, I believe, 9th, and he was like, "We want Kobe," but they weren't like. It was to the point where everyone's like, "Well, will he play for? He won't play for the Nets." So they took Kittles. So you knew he was special, but you didn't know. Obviously,
you didn't want to be the team that risked like that high school guy in such a deep draft, and probably. I think between 96, LeBron's class in 03, and the class with Jordan and Barkley.
84, yeah.
84, like those are the top 3, like greatest drafts of all time. So I think in that deep, because it's so deep, you didn't want to take a risk taking a high school kid that you wouldn't know, like would be, you don't know what you're gonna get with him.
Well, I think and I think he dictated where he was gonna go, which was kind of unheard of for a kid that never even stepped foot in college.
And that's what kind of bothered me. I was like, "Who? Well, okay, you're all right. I get it, but who are you? You know what I'm saying? I like, I've heard about you. I remember reading the article in the paper about Kobe, but I just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? A lot of we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not too many high school. Like I said, it was Malone before that, Garnett. I mean, that was probably his rookie season. I mean, he was solid, but we didn't know how good he was going to be. And funny thing is, I remember like Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp, I know his story is weird because I remember he was he was, the Sean Kemp story.
Well, he was at Kentucky, and then he had he's supposed to go to Kentucky, and then he transferred to a JUCO because of some stolen lab, some shit, I believe, right?
Something crazy.
Yeah.
And then but he never plays. He never played in those schools. So he but he gets drafted anyway. So it's kind of funny because it's like, people like it's a loophole with him. It's like, so Sean Kemp's like the greatest community college player of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like we did, but he's like, so it's a loophole with him if you want to consider him being straight out of high school or not. But it's a pretty funny story. So Kobe gets drafted. Yeah, Kobe gets drafted. They pull the trade. Jerry West was influenced. Like they got him there. And Divock was threatening to he's like, I'm going to retire. I think the trade was held up because Divock was threatening to retire.
Yeah, he didn't want to.
He didn't want to go there. And then after a while, he just came. He was like, all right, I'm good.
And then I need this check.
Yeah, another big Laker that also gets drafted in that class is Derek Fisher,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
who low key is a fixture with the Lakers all these years. So that's another at 24. So then it sets up for the Shaq signing.
Whoa. We gotta show some respect to my man Travis Knight, who got drafted in the first round with this.
I did skip about it. I was trying to piece the timeline. You're right. My bad.
Shout out to Travis Knight.
Respect. Shout out to Travis Knight, man.
Travis Knight.
Remember him on. So that's the setup to sign Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaq comes in 7 years. Talk about when you heard about the Shaq deal, Lawrence.
Shaq deal is interesting because that was during the Olympics. It was '96 Olympics, and him and Penny were on the same team, but Orlando, there was so much infighting, I think, with them, and in terms of Orlando, the newspaper and the media kind of turned on Shaq a little bit to the point where it drove him to LA, and I was happy to get Shaq because he was, to me, maybe the second best center in the league at that time, in my opinion, behind Hakeem. But I just remember him being so dominant in Orlando that I was like, yeah, we're gonna eventually win a championship with him.
Yeah, Jules, you remember?
Yeah, I remember because I remember even like when the Bulls washed them, you could just tell like, and it's like when you go to like later on, like with LeBron, when he was like, you could just get a certain feel when somebody's done, like they
about to jump
like,
ship.
Yeah. So I was excited because we have a long legendary list of centers. So I'm like, all right, this is like, all right, this feel good. This feel like some normalcy. He was big. That's when Shaq was starting to get into the movies and shit. It just felt right. Like, yo,
Shaq was definitely a one.
So I was excited. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and the opportunities he had in LA, because Shaq was a brand, basically. And what I respect about Shaq, he did everything. He did the opposite of everybody, like as far as endorsements and stuff. Like Jordan, mostly big NBA players with McDonald's. He went with like Taco Bell. Jordan was Gatorade. Shaq was Powerade. Yeah. Jordan was Nike. Shaq was Reebok. So he was really trying to all right, let me get these other, or the companies were like, all right, no, we're going to offer you this. Nike will offer you that, but we're going to offer you this. So Shaq, from a business standpoint, took advantage of everything he had to offer. From when he was another rookie, like when he came in, just was like, just took, you saw the greatness from day one.
Oh, yeah.
So, Shaq,
I remember seeing it. It was visually aesthetic. Like, just see him having the 34. It just felt like a new legacy, like 32, 33, 34. Like,
because Magic had 32. Yeah, he had to re-up. He had to get 34.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he comes in.
It just worked out so dope.
Yeah. So he comes in, season starts, 8 games in, they trade Ceballos back to Phoenix for Robert Horry. So big shot Rob is a big deal because he shows up in championship games.
Well, it was funny though. I remember they traded Horry from Phoenix because he threw a towel at his head coach.
I remember that. Right, draped it right over it perfectly over his head. It wasn't all. I remember it just plopped, draped like a clan, like a clan sheet. It just draped him, and he was like, "Yeah, you gotta go." I bet that was
crazy for that.
Yeah,
that was hilarious, man.
So so you get stuff like that. I mean, those are setting it up, but it was. They were a young team. They were still fun, man. Just at that time.
They were. Kobe, All-Star Weekend '97, Kobe wins his first award in the league. He wins the slam dunk contest. So you remember watching that slam dunk contest?
Yeah, definitely. I was hyped for Kobe. I was hyped for Kobe. I felt like him winning it was like, we got somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because it just feel like that slam dunk, especially back then, it really meant something. Like, it really was something like once you won that, propelled you. You were able to get your name on a different kind of radar.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, that felt like that was his first real breakout moment. You know?
Yeah. And wasn't he dating Brandy at the time, or he went to Brandy's high school prom or something like that? Something like
Yeah.
that.
He was on Moesha. He was on Moesha.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Yep. Kobe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Making those Hollywood living that
That's
Hollywood
when
life, man.
that was when Brandy had the Cinderella era. That was fire.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah.
true. Now Kobe's first season, I mean, it was I guess it was good enough. He averaged 7 points a game, ended up all second all rookie team, but it didn't really okay, I think his minutes were okay, but it wasn't that good. But they end up being 56-26. They beat Portland first rounds in 4 games, 3 games to 1, still best of 5, and they lose to Utah in 5 that year. Move on to the following year. It was I remember one thing that sticks out to me is the All-Star game at the Garden. It's the All-Star game at the Garden, where 4 Lakers make the team. Shaq, Kobe. Kobe gets voted in, even though personally I was like, okay, I'm not trying to say I was a Kobe hater at the time, but I was like, all right, I get why, popular vote, I guess. He was still good, but he wasn't, the Kobe we all know and love. So it's Shaq, Kobe, Nick, and Eddie Jones. So 4 Lakers on the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Kobe's the youngest player to make the All-Star team. Do you remember watching that game and being excited not only to have Kobe in the center of attention, but it
was Jordan's last game.
And at Madison Square Garden, everybody loves to play there.
Madison, exactly. It had all the fields. You feel what I'm saying? It was dope because it was to see my guys. It was 4 of us there. I remember it because it was just such a moment because it was a lot of The Last Dance talked about it. It was
and that's what I was gonna get to. I mean, because
damn, this could be Michael's. It could be Michael's last time, and that energy was permeating through the building, even when I could see it from the television. You feel? And then for Kobe to give him, that was just another breakout moment. So it was Kobe had these milestone moments that just kind of set him apart to be the those great moments of the slam dunk contest, then the matchup with Jordan, just to see him giving Jordan the business and going shot for shot with Jordan, just energy wise, it was just another putting himself on the map kind of moment,
Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah, watching The Last Dance. I know we all watched it. I mean, talk about the scene of when they covered the All-Star game at the Garden.
I mean, I just remember. I remember. Like you said, the Garden, the All-Star game was at Madison Square Garden. I remember playing in a basketball tournament. It was called Hoop It Up. I remember. They had it at the
3-on-3.
Yeah, 3-on-3. They had it at the Jacob Javits Center.
I remember going to the jam. I went to the jam session. They had I think a rookie practice there too. I remember. Yeah,
they had jam session that weekend. So me and my friends, we were in. We were there for the festivities that weekend, and I just remember as a Laker fan, and I was just so hyped because it was kind of like Kobe didn't even start for his own team, but he's an all-star
starter, yeah.
And yeah, it was 18, he was 18, 19, starting all
youngest player to.
There you go. I mean, so yeah, definitely it was very exciting to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. So that whole season looked at 161 games, 61-21. Go all the way to the Western Conference Finals, lose to Utah, which, they end up losing to the Bulls, and the rest is that.
I think
now,
go ahead, Lawrence. I was going to say, man, I think that Utah series, man, it was really heartbreaking to me, and it was kind of upsetting because the fact that we played Utah the year before in '97, and we lost in 5 games, and and in Game 5 that was the Kobe 4 air balls in a row, 4 air balls, and I remember '98. I said, man, it's gonna be a Bulls Lakers finals this year, man. We lost last year to Utah. We coming back stronger, and those first 2 games in Utah, they beat the shit out of us, yo. It was it was no answer for the pick and roll. It was the role plays. Utah stepped up, and we just looked you know, and it was like Shaq had a trend of just getting swept, you know, in playoffs.
Yeah.
Like at the up until that point, like Chicago, Houston, you know, Indiana the year before. So it was like, fuck, like Shaq, like, come on, you're supposed to be
break through that, brother.
I know.
Break through it. So I think
very humbling.
Yeah, it might be the lack of experience because at the end of the day, they were still a young team. So you know they had time. The window was still wide open for them at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
It did, but at the time it was true. But at the time, you ain't feel like that. Like at least speaking.
Yeah, you were mad as a fan. You're like, nah.
It was like, nah, we need that now. We can do it now. You feel
as
like
a Knicks
that.
fan, the window was.
Team in a player.
As a Knicks fan, the window was closed all the time.
But see, that's how it is when you got a team that's in the playoffs and you like and you know your team got dog in it. You can feel like, all right, damn, like just what he said perfectly. Like, yo, we went through it last year. This year, we're going to do it. Bulls versus Lakers. You start feeling that because it's like, yo, I feel like it. And that's how I felt like, not to skip over, but I thought about it should have been Lakers versus Knicks when the Knicks went to the finals. You know what I'm saying? So, in just the sweeps and like one thing though, I said those sweeps and those big losses humble Shaq and put Shaq, because everybody talks about what it did for Kobe, but historically what those losses did for Shaq, put him in monster mode and was able for him to take it to the next level. He had to get those losses, heartbreak to Utah, San Antonio, and then Phil, monster time, let's get shit rocking.
Yep. Following year, 99 starts. Shaq, this is the interesting thing. I mean, Kobe, like they still had Eddie Jones. Were you like Team Eddie or Team Kobe? As well, like Eddie Jones started, Kobe was still coming off the bench. But I liked Eddie Jones a lot. I just felt, not saying he was better, he might have been better because of the more seasoning, but I did like Eddie Jones. When they traded Eddie for Glenn Rice after 20 games, were you like, would you rather see Kobe move on, or did you know the potential like of Kobe was like, all right, nah, Kobe's gonna be better. Just wait and see.
I'll let Julio go ahead. What are you gonna say, bro?
Oh, okay. I was gonna let you go. So
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Lawrence. Yeah, go ahead, Lawrence.
Nah, I was, you know, it the Eddie for Glenn Rice trade, it almost it hurt because you know Nick Van Exel was gone at that point. They traded him to Denver. Eddie was like that other piece, that pre-Kobe and Shaq piece that was like there. But at the same time, like when the league and we're talking 1999, you know, you didn't play two slashes together. It was, you know, it was your small forward, you know, and then I think they made the trade to kind of, because Shaq, the way Shaq played, you would double, triple teaming him. And it's like, all right, if he's getting triple teamed, we got to find someone that can shoot the shit out the ball. And that guy.
So Shaq could kick it out. Like in Orlando, he had all those 3-point, like he had Dennis Scott and Nick Anderson, the guys who could hit the three. So he probably needed somebody else to kick it out to.
If this was 2020, Kobe and Eddie Jones are automatic starts, and you know what I mean. Like they'll figure out. We play positionless basketball now, so it's kind of like, you know. But back in the days, you had your role assigned, and unfortunately, Eddie was older, and you could see that Kobe had just something that Eddie didn't have.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna tell you what it is what the kids call clout.
Yeah,
the clout.
He truly did, man.
Kobe, like, and the thing was, Eddie versus Kobe was something nobody truly liked. You know what I'm saying? Because we fuck with Eddie Jones, especially like us. We started with Eddie, damn near started with Eddie as the fan. So it was like, but you knew that Eddie leave. It wasn't like we were gonna be fine because we have Kobe Bryant, we have Shaq. You know, it sucked that they had to be pitted against each other. Now to see where the league is at, they could have been. This wouldn't even be a question. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So what can you do? But you know, shout out to Eddie Jones, man. Legend.
Eddie had a great career. I think he had a solid career, man. After he went to All-Star games, Charlotte, Miami.
And
I think he got a ring with Dallas, if I want to say. He
nah,
got a ring,
he didn't get a ring. No, he missed.
He's ringless.
What happened was he played with Miami in 2004, 2005. That's when, and then
he missed it. He missed it. Damn it.
Yeah. So
Eddie is ringless. Sorry, Eddie.
Sorry, Eddie.
Oh well, yeah. And the trade. I mean, when they traded for Glenn Rice, it made sense because I like Glenn. I was a big Glenn Rice guy too.
Me too. I like Glenn Rice.
Tall guy, could shoot the three, and he was wherever he went. Before Charlotte and Miami, he was a very good player. So like that was a perfect fit, I think, at the time. For
it was. You know what? I'm gonna say this. It was a good fit. It wasn't a perfect fit because Glenn Rice had to give up a lot of his game to come to LA, if that makes sense. And Glenn was a scorer. He was the number one option in Miami. He was the number one scorer in Charlotte. And then getting to LA, it's like, oh, you're third now. You're the third guy on the totem pole. And I think, he only lasted a couple seasons with us, but I mean, he was solid.
And at least when he was a Knick, they ended up putting him in center. Sometimes it was just a mess. When Glenn Rice came, that trade made no sense with the Ewing. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So that 88-89 season, Del Harris gets fired, replaced by Kurt Rambis. They get swept in the second round by the Spurs, and that's their last game at the Great Western Forum in Inglewood. So, yep, that was it. But then it gets better. Huh? The Spurs.
I remember getting pissed.
Is that the number one team you probably hate as Laker fans? Is like that's your biggest rival?
Maybe? It's a few of them. Honestly, I don't like the Spurs. I don't like no team that swept us in the history of
Utah.
Anything. Utah, Spurs, Rockets swept us a couple times. I don't like the Sixers because they swept us. I don't like no team that swept us or a gentleman's sweep. I don't like
So all right, 99 off season. Phil Jackson, the Zen Master himself, comes in big time. Now I'm gonna step back a year before and focus on The Last Dance for a second. Do you think if Phil Jackson doesn't leave and he stays on in 99, and remember 99 is a strike shortened season, do you think the Bulls possibly win another championship?
Yes.
Because if Phil stays, I believe Jordan stays. Pippen stays. Rodman more likely stays. You know what I'm saying? So
I think they could have did it in the short season for sure. I think the short season would have helped them.
I said the same thing. 50 games. Jordan was like 50 more games. Yep, we could do this.
Short season would have helped them being older. Even though they were getting close and it would have been rough, but I think they would have pushed through and been knowing more likely they would have played the Spurs. I remember having this conversation. Somebody said the Spurs probably would have overcame the Bulls that year, and it would have really showed age or whatever. And then the Knicks obviously wouldn't have got that 8th seed if the Bulls were there. So. But what about you, Lawrence? You think if the Bulls stayed intact that 99 season, they win?
I think they would have had to do a lot of retooling on the team. Because I remember at that point, man, honestly, Rodman ain't have nothing left in the tank, man. That second, I mean, he wasn't even starting at that point, man. They pretty much had Kukoc, and I think Kukoc would have got destroyed. By Duncan.
If they have this, it was Bulls Spurs. It's interesting because a lot of people maybe that would have been the Spurs might have been too much. And Duncan Robinson was still good. And
Robinson, they had Sean Elliott was still there.
Yeah, Sean Elliott was great, man.
So I think it played out the way it should have. Not should have. I mean, obviously you want to see Chicago defend it, but
this is definitely a hypothetical. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Jordan might step on the court, get injured. Like a lot of things could happen that year. You know what I'm saying? So but I think if everything all was perfect, I think they would have probably had one more. Yeah, I think they could have pulled it off and probably won 4. Yeah. But Phil takes that year off and then 98, 99 takes the Laker job. Great. They got it. They add in Ron Harper, Brian Shaw, John Sally, AC Green, and then they moved. Yep. They moved to the Staples. They moved to the Staples Center, so they got to share it with the Clippers. So it's like, it's pretty dope. So that year they go 67 wins.
67-15 that year.
Yep. Shaq with MVP, his first regular season MVP. Playoffs, they beat Sacramento in 5, beat Phoenix in 5. Western Conference Finals, legendary 7 series against Portland. You know what I'm saying? Talk about that series, because like a lot of like that Portland team, everybody was a star. Like Rush, they had Pip, was it Damon Stoudemire? Like that team, Sabonis, that team was stacked, and that LeShremp was there, and like that team was a hard. Do you remember like sweating in that 7-game series? Like, we might not happen this year. Lawrence, I'll start with you.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jules. No, go, Jules.
Yeah, I was sweating. Because I knew what we was dealing with. We was dealing with trained killers. It was looking rough, but it was looking rough. Trained killers. Yeah. It was looking rough, but yeah, it was just like, because they had very good pieces. Like you said, they had deadlift. And it wasn't like super.
They're probably the deepest team. Yeah.
Yeah. They had
probably the deepest team in the league at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Solid role players that hurt you in them like 3 minutes left, 5 minutes left, and you're trying to pull up a shot and making them plays and shit like that. So I remember that. That's what made like that series so special, of how we was able to fight through it and power through it. But to answer your question, I definitely was nervous.
Yeah. So go ahead, Lawrence.
I think that the 2000 Western Conference playoffs was very interesting, because the Lakers, they didn't know how to win. So even if you look at that first round series against Sacramento, they were up 2-0 and then blew 2 games in Sacramento. They looked like they were on the ropes. And obviously they won game 5. You look at like the next round, I mean, we dodged San Antonio because Duncan had injured his meniscus. So we didn't even play the Spurs that year. And we get to we played Portland. And I remember them. I mean, Shaq had, like you say, put together one of the greatest regular seasons ever, right? It was dominant. He was one vote shy of being a unanimous MVP that year.
Yeah.
But it was that same thing of, we went up 3-1 in that series, but didn't know how to close out. We lost the game 5 in LA, and then game 6, Portland's at the Rose Garden, and they're fucking, they're fighting for their lives. And then you get to a game 7, it's like, oh, we've dropped 2 straight, and Portland is the deeper team. They've got the momentum. They've got, Rasheed Wallace, who, one thing we couldn't really do that year, or in the years that we won the championship, we had a tough time with power forwards. So you look at, shit like that, and we're down 15, and, it's like, oh, man, this is how the season's going to end. And you just, you're like, fuck, man, this is not fun at all. And they fought back, and it was, obviously the most iconic thing I remember about that is Kobe crosses up Pip, Brian Grant comes, I think he comes to help, and then he lobs it to Shaq, and it's just like that right there is like the beginning of what we knew.
The new Showtime era. Yep. Yeah. So so they go to the finals, beating Indiana in 6. They win their first championship since '98. So good times for the Lakers. You remember where you were watching these games? I'll start with you, Lawrence.
I was in high school. I remember watching some of the games at my friend's house, some of the other games at my grandfather's house. And when the Lakers clinched in 6, I was at my grandfather's house, and I remember I was crying because I was like, "Damn, this has been a long 6 years of being a Lakers fan."
How long? 6 years.
6 years,
Yeah.
Oh, the suffering. Oh, the pain. Julio, what about you?
Same. I was at the crib, so I was just going nuts. I remember just being ecstatic, like, yo, we did it. We won the chip. Kobe got a chip. Shaq got a chip. Like, Phil, masterful Phil, just happy. You know what I'm saying? Just even, I felt bad. I was thinking on that night, I was thinking about guys like Nick and and Eddie Jones and you know, just guys that really helped get us there. Because like he said, it was a rough 6 years. Like I know as a Knicks fan, you're like, oh, 6 years. But
Yeah.
those
Talk
was
about
rough, those was rough series.
60,
You feel what I'm saying?
60 years for me.
Those was
Yeah.
rough. Those was rough, and it was painful to watch. You feel what I'm saying?
Man,
It's already enough
feel you,
being
man.
a New Yorker and then you're a Laker fan.
Yeah.
It's already a chip on your shoulder, you know.
Man. Yep.
So,
So
good times.
Yep. It even gets better the following year, 56-26, 11-0 in the whole playoff run. I mean, until the finals. That's so they dominated the final. They were about to go. They were close to going undefeated, and then they sets up one of the biggest matchups with the 76ers. Now, when I look at that Sixer team, Allen Iverson probably was the highlight of the whole NBA season because he wins MVP. He, you know, the shortest guy to ever do the things he's done. Incredible. Like, and he was an icon, not only in the NBA but to, like, you know, the hip hop community, and just like he was like, I want to say can we say Iverson was the first player to like really be like hip hop embraced? You want to say, like, as far as
I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, we look at the cultural influence that AI had.
That's what I probably didn't use the right words, but
I mean that right there is, you know, he made it acceptable to have cornrows, and, you know what I mean, and hip hop and like all that was like, you know, you saw like 5-10 years ago, dudes was wearing suits to games. AI was
you know, coming in FUBU still to this day.
AI, well, I think, and the best way to put it is AI was the first, because the culture, we loved everybody, but I think AI was the first guy that loved us back openly. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
We loved AI. AI loved us back. You feel what I'm saying? So
it was good, man. And game one is a memorable game because that was the game where, like, the only game that the Lakers lost, and AI steps over Tyronn Lue in that last in that final shot, and then and Kobe and AI, they're going back and forth, man. So it's like you thinking like, oh, this is going to be a hell of a series, man. Yeah. But Lakers do the thing. They win again, 4-1, back-to-back championships, and it's big. I remember, wasn't it game 4 when Destiny's Child got booed at halftime?
I believe so. I know they got booed.
I feel they got stress.
Yeah, I remember Philly fans overall in any sport, Philly fans suck ass. They're the worst type of people, man. They boo everything. They fight for everything. The Philly fans are terrible human beings.
Well, you also got to realize Kobe went to high school at Lower Merion, which is not too far from Philly, and they're playing AI, and AI's got all the love from Philadelphia. So you know that fucked with Kobe a little bit as well, you know.
All right, the following year they go. Kobe goes to he wins the All-Star Game MVP. We're in Philly, and gets booed out the building after he runs. You remember watching that All-Star game?
Yes, I do.
Him getting booed, yeah.
I was pissed.
It was yeah, man. But like I said, it's Philly.
I thought that was corny. I thought that was corny. I thought that was. Yeah, it was Philly, but still, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fuck them. That's how.
They play there. They play anywhere else. Yeah, they play anywhere else. That doesn't happen. But Philly, they're just.
And it's like, granted, I'm a Laker fan too. So, but I'm still a Giant fan. I'm still a Met fan. So I don't really like
Philly at all. Yeah, they're just terrible. Absolutely.
And then go back to like the Sixers sweeping the Lakers. I don't like Philly no part. You know, I love AI, but that's where it stopped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so like, yeah, back to back. Like, Kobe winning the MVP, and then the playoffs. So they end up winning 58 games. Playoffs, they sweep Portland first round, San Antonio in 5, and then another tough Western Conference Finals against the Sacramento Kings, or as Shaq called them, the Sacramento Queens. That was a tough one Do you remember watching that one?
Oh, of course. I mean that. I have so many thoughts on that series. I mean, it was almost like we beat them 2 years in a row at this point. We got their starting point guard traded. Jason Williams got traded to Vancouver for Bibby because he couldn't guard Derek Fisher in the playoffs. Like we were just straight. He couldn't play defense on us. And it was like one of those Sacramento's like, this is our year, you know. There was, and I remember it was my high school prom, game 5. We you know, obviously big Ori hits the shot in game 4. If he doesn't make that shot, we go down 3-1 in that series. Bibby destroyed us the whole series, and you know, but they just, you know, obviously once same thing like Portland, they had the way deeper team, but we just had the 2 best players.
Yep. Exactly. Nah, Lawrence pretty much said it best. It was just scary. It was just like the Blazers series. You feel what I'm saying? Especially with like, damn, you know, when you got 2 and you trying to go for 3, and it's like, oh, you don't know what's gonna happen. But we like Lawrence said, we got the 2 best players, and when you got 2 stars like that and a coach like Phil, you know, I don't care what they say about the refs. I don't care what they say about the refs, man. You know what I mean? Like, we did our thing. The Kings is good, and that's what good rivalries are made of. You know what I'm saying? Too bad they never got there.
And that team was so snacked. Yep, Weber, DeLoach, Asia. That team was Doug Chris. There's so many. Bobby Jackson, I think,
Bobby
too.
Jackson was
bench,
in that
right?
team.
They kept getting better. That was upsetting. They kept getting better as the series went on. So it was like, oh shit, did they finally find the right pieces? I remember some of them Sacramento games, we just looked awful. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, you could tell the disconnect. Like Shaq looked lost out there, like wasn't connecting. But again, we got.
Wasn't that when Hack-a-Shaq was a big thing around that time? It was just like they just beat the shit out of It's like
beat on them.
At a guy at 7'1", 300 pounds with 1% body fat, that's a hard dude to stop. So they had to figure out something. And the weaknesses were the 3, the foul, at the line. So you just have to that was like when Hack-a-Shaq was running wild. It was crazy. So. But after that was basically it, man, because the finals, they sweep the Nets, that Jason Kidd led net team, and you got the 3-peat, and the Lakers are the last team to 3-peat in professional sports. So that's a dynasty that you can always look back at, saying, with the Bulls 3-peating twice. Lord knows that Jordan didn't retire, take that gap during that time. But that's the last team to 3-peat in all the sports. So that's pretty good. So 3-peat. So following year, 2002, 2003, they lose to San Antonio in 6. They go back, lose to San Antonio at 6. One game that stands out to me is that game 5. If you remember that series where Tim Duncan, the Lakers won this game, but remember when Tim Duncan hits a buzzer, hits a shot near the end, and then Fisher hits the game winner? That was.
You talking about point 3?
That's the year after.
About point 3.
That's the year after. So
2003. That's what I'm talking. 2002.
03, 04. That was the year.
Yeah, I moved. Oh, it was 03, 04?
So 02, 03 is when we played them in the second round and we lost in 6 and we lost by
that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I remember game 5. Yeah.
There was a controversial game 5. That wasn't the Duncan Fisher joint.
That game was in 04.
That's the next year in the second round. But
oh, my bad.
No, I saw good. No. These shits are ingrained in my head, man, because it's that.
And I'm glad because I do so much prep and I think and I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I don't I'm doing the prep and I don't know shit.
Nah, you do, bro. Trust me. Everything you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. You did so much, bro. But
I thought it was 03, 04. So man.
The Spurs the Spurs were just a better team than us that year. They were they had guys that they had Steve Kerr, Steven Jackson, guys who.
And Ori was a Spur then too.
Ori was not a Spur.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
jumping.
No. That's what they had. It was David Robinson last year. Like,
Yep. He went out with that second championship. So him, Duncan, they went out.
You got to realize how much, and I know Julio can attest to what I'm saying. Like, you got to realize like how much work it goes into getting a three-peat, and by that last,
absolutely.
Just like Chicago in '98, when Indiana took them to 7, and like Utah, like they looked like they could have gotten to a game 7. With the Lakers like going through Sacramento, you could tell like the team wasn't as deep as they once were. There was no Ron Harper, there was no Glenn Rice, there was no Horace Grant. There was like certain, it was a different team. So that following year, it's like, San Antonio, after like getting beat by us in like 01 and 02, it's like they were
they were ready.
And we got smoked by like 30 in game 6. I remember that shit. Fisher was crying, like the Kobe.
I remember the emotion. That was when the beef started, right? Well, I mean, I think they were butting heads a little bit, right? Shaq and Kobe.
They butt heads since day one. You know what I mean?
Day one, But they made it work. So the following year, that off season, first it was Kobe, the alleged scandal, the night in Colorado, and then that was that case ends up going out the window. But that off season was pretty good because you get Karl Malone, and Gary Payton. So that's a big deal because you have 4 Hall of Famers in your starting lineup. So your starting lineup is 4 Hall of Famers and Rick Fox. So that's a pretty good combination. Were you excited when you added these Hall of Famer guys? Potential Hall of Famers, now they're certified Hall of Famers. Were you excited when they got Malone and Payton?
Yeah, I was excited for him. I was excited. I heard a lot of people like, they old, they washed. But I was still excited because those were guys that I wanted to see get rings. You feel what I'm saying? I figured this is what we needed a little. This was before any of the big threes. This was nobody ever talked about how we had to cheat because we never won the chip. But we had a cheat team, if you will. And I like Gary Payton more so than Karl Malone. But I just seen Karl go through them losses. So I always had a respect level for Karl and Stockton. So I was excited to see how they would go. Not really thinking the egos is crazy. How would this work?
A lot of Hall of
Famers. I was really excited. I thought we was, after that San Antonio loss, I felt like, all right, this is how we're going to answer San Antonio. Because, you start looking at San Antonio like, damn, these guys are the threat. We thinking we so worried about Kings and it's the Spurs that we got to worry about. You feel what I'm saying? So that's when they got scary. So I was like, now we back. We got these all-stars and I'm excited for it. But it ended up, and we'll get to that, but the finals was one of my worst experiences as a fan. I remember being so frustrated.
Lawrence, you was excited for Malone and Payton?
Yeah, I was definitely because obviously when you win 3 championships in a row and then you lose in a fashion that we did to San Antonio, and obviously it was Tim Duncan was the key piece in that. You want a power forward that can kind of at least stifle him a little bit. Now, granted, Malone was 19-year vet at that point, but just on name alone, I don't think we never saw anything like that where you have perennial Hall of Famers guys, coming together, and they made it work financially. Whether it was taking mid-level exceptions and things that you're like, whoa, like they can get money on the open market a little bit more, but I would say
the ring chase. They were ring chasing a bit, They
of course,
of course,
without
that's without a doubt.
They were definitely ring chasing, but it just, even though you a part of you is like you say, you're like, fuck, like we're happy, like we got Malone and Gary Payton, like we still had the uncertainty with Kobe that season.
So with the case and stuff.
So he's playing games. He's playing games at 8:00, and he's flying in from a court. Like he had a court date, earlier in the day. So the team, like Shaq, was like kind of injured a little bit. Like Malone, like it was they never got a full chance to gel.
Very injury prone season, So they were never at full full strength at all. So yeah, the All-Star game is in LA that year. Shaq wins the All-Star game MVP. So that's something. Okay, and then they as expected with that team, that deep of a team, you go all the way to the finals. And Julio, I guess, talk about that finals series against Detroit.
And now you got to understand. So to give you my thought process of being a Jordan fan, being a Laker fan, that was my first experience live seeing a deep team like the Kings, like the Blazers, like your Pacers actually beat the Stars. And that was so frustrating for me because I could not figure out how these 4 Hall of Famers are losing to these no names, even though they're playing hell of a squad. You feel what I'm saying? And at the same, not to disrespect them, because obviously that Piston team was not no names. There was an incredible team. But that was my first experience seeing, having the best players don't matter. And it was it was humbling. You feel what I'm saying? I remember being so frustrated because I would want Kobe to rescue us with 40 points to get us out, and it wouldn't work. Shaq wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? It was just every corner they had is beat, and it was like a gentleman's sweep. So it was just a prolonged. I've seen sweeps that that haven't had me more upset than that Piston loss. And it was the Pistons too. It was just bad business. Bad business.
Go ahead, Lawrence. What were you about to say?
Yeah, it was. You look back on, like I said, everything from like Gary Payton not being able to really adjust himself to playing in the triangle that year. Fisher coming off the bench, Kobe's pace. The uncertainty with Shaq, because it was known that Shaq was or Kobe was one of them wasn't gonna probably be there at the end of the year, and for all of that, like I said, I mean, I don't even think to be honest, I know as a Lakers fan I shouldn't say this, but I think obviously I didn't think we were gonna be San Antonio, but once again Fisher hit, that was the Duncan Fisher shot and getting to the finals. To me, I've never it felt like Lakers fans, we were so arrogant because we were like the Pistons, like we just beat.
Yeah, we're gonna beat them. Yeah, we're gonna beat them.
we just beat the Spurs. We beat the MVP of the league, Kevin Garnett, and the Timberwolves in the Western Conference. And we're like, we got this. Like Detroit is nothing. And then game 1, they punched us in the mouth. Like it was like that defense. And then you're like, all right, you're like, whatever, man. We lost game 1 to Philadelphia 3 years earlier. Like, come on, man, it's good. And game 2 was, Kobe had to bail us out, like hitting. He hit a shot to put us in overtime. He had to do so much, and he had to. Malone got hurt game 2 as well. And and now you're kind of like, well, we barely escaped game 2. We got to go to Detroit for 3. And it just kept getting worse, and everything just kept unraveling. And then, the defense in Detroit was it was like suffocating. And before you knew it, you were down 3-1, and you're like, we're going to win game 5 because we're going to go back to LA and win 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you down 20 at the half, and you just like, man, it's over,
Yeah, it's really looking bad. So, yeah, no championship for you guys, but it happens. Detroit was just that Billups, Rasheed. I think that addition with Sheed going there just put them over.
That was definitely
that
was definitely the thing that put Detroit over the edge, man. Trading for Sheed at the All-Star break from Atlanta. It was, and Portland traded him to Atlanta. I think he played with Atlanta.
One game. So if anybody out there has an Atlanta Hawks Rasheed Wallace jersey, it might be worth something. It's a rare. I know it's a rare.
Shout out to Rasheed. He used to keep the WCW heavyweight title.
He was the one. He's the one. Even if they didn't win, no WCW title. I don't think the Lakers would have did that. So shout out to Sheed for doing that. So all right, off season 04, this was the friction with Kobe and Shaq. Who do you keep? Were you guys team Kobe or team Shaq at the time? I'll start with you, Lawrence.
I was honestly, I was team Kobe, and I'll say it, and here's why. I felt like at that time Shaq is like 31.
Yeah.
You already see that not the work, like he's undeniably like probably one of the most talented big men to ever play the game. But at the same time, I mean, Kobe was, maybe 25. He's young, he's younger, and you realize that you just unfortunately, it's you wish they can stay together, but you gotta go with Kobe on that one.
Yep, true indeed.
Yeah.
So same, Jules, same.
Yeah, I was Kobe. I thought I was like, Kobe, just give me go when I seen in Mike, I seen in Kobe, and I felt like I'm going to bet with this guy. You feel? I'm a guard guy anyway. You know what I mean? As much as I know centers win so many championships and help team, I'm always a guard guy. I'm a short guy, so I'm a guard guy at heart. So I was riding with Kobe, man, and it just felt like that was it.
Yeah.
It's just like Kobe and Eddie. You don't want to pick. You really don't want to pick between Kobe and Shaq. Just have them all. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So they trade Shaq for Lamar Odom, Brian Grant, and Caron Butler, and then it's a new it's a new time. And Phil's also out, and he criticized Kobe in his book, I think. And that was another one that was so like right now. Do you think like Kobe's painted out to be the villain? Because it's like multiples, like between his beef with Shaq, his beef with Phil Jackson. Well, I'm not saying beef, but yeah. Do you think Kobe's painted out to be the villain for a while? There was. I remember Nas came out with an album and Nas is dissing Kobe. I was like, what the hell? So I was like, Kobe was really painted out to be the bad guy for a minute. What do you think about it?
I think Kobe definitely. I mean, his personality at the time, a lot of people looked at him as like this to himself, aloof type of guy. And I mean, obviously, like I said, Colorado's still fresh in everyone's minds. The quote unquote selfishness of Kobe is still in everyone's minds. The fact that Karl Malone, after he his time in LA, he badmouthed Kobe. So. It definitely looked like Dr. Bus. I mean, he picked the villain, but it was the
best choice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I in hindsight, now that we're looking back, honestly, that was the best shit that ever happened to him. For him to be this heel and this bad guy gave him an edge to his game, an edge to his spirit, edge to his competitiveness. That just a killer drive that just really took him like, yo, I'm gonna even switch the number on you. You know what I mean?
Yep. He switched from 8 to 24. Yep, that's a big deal.
I'm gonna switch the number on you. It's a new era. Got rid of the fro.
Yep, he really did change. He had a makeover basically. Yep,
and embraced being the villain. So it was the best thing to happen to him.
Yeah. So it's a new team. They get rid of Gary Payton, Rick Fox. They trade him away to Boston. Rudy Tomjanovich is now the head coach because Phil's out. But Rudy T had to resign due to he had health problems, and that was an injury plague series, and they missed the playoffs. They go 34-48. So the following year, Phil comes back, and then they draft Andrew Bynum. And they also make a trade for Kwame Brown. So it's like Kwame Brown. And that season, the 2005-2006 season, was a good season, but one of the most memorable nights will be on January 22nd, 2006, when Kobe drops 81 points versus the Raptors. Do you remember watching that game?
No, because it was honestly, it was conference championship weekend in football, and I remember watching football. But I remember, everyone was talking about, this dude dropped 81, and you just watched it on Sports Center, and you were like, yo, yeah. And
mhm. Yeah, no, go ahead, Lawrence, finish.
I was gonna say, man, 81 was the culmination, because there was the 62 through 3 against Dallas that he was putting up numbers on the board.
Like it was bound to happen, yeah.
Yeah, so
it was bound to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So he was that was a big deal. Second highest total between Wilt Chamberlain's alleged 100, because we never seen the film. We don't know. He's just holding up a picture with a piece of paper that says 100, but but that was an amazing game. Julio, did you watch that game, the Kobe 81?
Nah, I was watching the playoffs with Lawrence.
Playoffs, football, yep.
And plus, I don't even think the game. I don't even think it was probably one of those. So we in New York, we don't get every Laker game. You feel what I'm saying?
That's true. I understand. I want to say so. It wasn't a TNT game.
Yeah. It was like a Fox Sports.
It's Fox Sports regional type of game.
Yeah, exactly. So I probably wouldn't even been able to see it, but I do remember, like he said, seeing it on Sports Center and being like, "Oh shit, that boy did it!" Like he right behind Wilt. Like, wow, Jordan ain't never did that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so it was it was a proud moment, as just anytime we do anything history making, big moments is just a wonderful feeling. You know what I mean? Like.
Definitely, man. So they go to the playoffs, lose to Phoenix in 7 games in the first round. So,
but he had some iconic moments in that first round, man. Obviously, the game was it the game 4 or whatever, when they go up 3-1 with the tie-in, the layup, the twisting layup, and then the
I do remember that.
And
that was classic.
Yeah, man, that was that's when you were like, first off, he's averaging 35 a game in the regular season. He's taking a team full of dudes who, at the time weren't, Chris Mem and the Smush Parkers, Chucky Atkins, those type of guys. And Kobe is willing these dudes to beat a team in Phoenix that, they were 50+ win team that year. So but they fell apart, unfortunately, and you're like, all right, we missed the playoffs 1 year. Kobe is, doing what he's doing. We're gonna keep growing. We're gonna keep building again. So
I knew Odom had potential. Odom ended up being very good there too. Being New Yorkers, he's been covered since high school. So Odom, I was happy for, and I was like, he ended up having a solid run there. Mm-hmm. So they're out the first round. Following year, they go 42-40. They lose to Phoenix in 5 that first round. Mm-hmm. But before that, Kobe, All-Star game, Kobe wins his second MVP in the one in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then Kobe, at the end of the season, there's some rumblings in the front office, and Kobe hints on wanting to be traded. And do you remember hearing about that?
I remember the car lot incident where he was talking about Andrew Bynum for Jason. He was like, ship his ass out, because there was the Andrew Bynum for Jason Kidd rumors. But then obviously I definitely remember the Kobe wanting to get out of LA. There was the Chicago rumors, there was Detroit rumors.
There was a Clipper rumor too, I think. Or the Clippers probably made that up.
No? The Clippers were always talking about somehow getting Kobe, whether to sign as a free agent or whatever, or get traded. But he just wanted out. Yeah.
So a little rumor. I think it happens with every star player. There's a bump in the road, and then they just like, I can't. So that's how that season goes. And the following year, the seasons get better. You get Derek Fisher back. Interesting story, how he got his Utah contract with his daughter. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I remember at that time hearing about that story. It's like, oh man, Derek, you got to honor Utah for Utah let him go. It's like, oh wow, that's respectable. Mm-hmm. And Fisher, down the line, Fisher ends up like one of the most hated guys as far as his off the court. It's just pretty funny. So
to Matt Barnes.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Barnes, a real one. The realest. So yeah, you get Fisher back. That season starts with, but Bynum gets hurt. He's out for the rest of the season. He gets injured in around January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then you make a good move to change, put you guys over the hump with Pau Gasol, who in Memphis, was good. Now you get him. Talk to us like when that trade went down. How did you feel? I'll start with Julio first.
I was hype. I remember that being on ESPN. Like I remember I came back from I was in school. I think I was probably in college, probably starting college. It was coming back from the class. I turned ESPN on and they're like, yo, we got Gasol. I was like,
it's a big one,
okay,
man. Yeah.
let's go. I felt like that was something different. It felt good. It felt right. It felt like, all right, we might do something with this. I felt like we already had the right pieces, and like with Gasol, it felt like he wasn't a star that Kobe couldn't be him. And Gasol, just when my first instinct was like, yo, this feels good.
Yeah.
Lawrence,
what about you when Gasol came?
I was more not so much excited about Gasol coming, but in terms of what was given up to get Paul Gasol was more like, wow, it was kind of at the time it looked like a robbery. I mean, we talking Kwame Brown, Javaris Crittenton, Aaron McKee, the rights. Obviously, the rights to Marc Gasol was the what ends up making the trade solid for Memphis.
Yeah.
You look at it. I mean, Gasol at the time was an underachiever. He never won a playoff game, not even a series. He never won a
playoff game. Yeah.
At that point, he was in the league for 6-7 years. At that point, I was obviously happy because Kobe got another star to play with them.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, we'll see how it goes. Gasol's an all-star and turn out to be one of the piece that obviously pushed us over the edge of the following couple of years, man.
Yep. So go finish 57-25, and that's a hell of a run. You get to the finals. Now, for the first time, you as fans witnessed Lakers Celtics. How did that feel going in, finally witnessing this historic rivalry back again?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jules. No, Jules, you go.
Yeah, so with my neighborhood, shout out to Broadway, everybody out there was going crazy.
B-Wood Queens.
B-Wood Queens, they was going crazy because they were so hyped that it was like, yo, the Celtics gonna wash y'all. Because, everybody loved them, some Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Those is solid guys, dope guys.
Great guys, great guys.
Yeah, great. That's always somebody you'd be like, yo, I mess with Paul Pierce, love Kevin Garnett, love Ray Allen. So I was getting so much. I remember that last game, and then just coming back, just everybody, I was walking because I lived in Bayside, so I had to go walk through Broadway to get to my crib in Bayside. I remember going through people and just everybody. To get to the bus, pardon me. But I remember just walking, and everybody was like, yo, your team lost, Celtics washed them.
Oh, man.
It was just, you know what I mean? I was like Shorty from Game of Thrones walking through the city, just getting that. All that just was shame.
Wow, shame. That is hilarious.
That fake wheelchair, man. I hate that series too.
Wow, Lawrence, how did you feel about the Celtics? It was a fun one. Definitely a fun one.
Honestly, I out of all the finals, I mean, this one that we lost. I mean, this one, I think I wasn't as hurt as opposed to losing against Detroit, and here's my reasons, because I felt like that Celtics team was put together perfectly in terms of veterans. They were deep. They had guys like Cassell, Tony Allen, like Rondo was, and they were pieced together. Whereas with the Lakers, we had Gasol coming in for half a season. Bynum was hurt. Trevor Ariza was hurt. And I felt like it was Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce versus Kobe. And we just weren't. Gasol was mentally getting abused, physically getting abused in that finals. You could tell he was still scared a little bit. And by game 6, I mean, we were down 3-2 and we were losing by like 30 at the half in game 6.
Because Kobe was calling, Kobe was getting in Gasol's ass, right? He's like, yo, what the hell are you doing, right?
I mean, I think the moment was a little bit bigger for Gasol at that point, and I feel like
stage was too big.
Stage was too big. He was still labeled kind of soft at that point in his career.
Yeah.
And it was Kevin Garnett's turn. Like KG like dominated him mentally and physically that series. So
yeah.
It hurt, but I kind of had that feeling. We just were a little undermanned at that. We weren't even expected to get to the finals that year, man. It was San Antonio was supposed to be that team again, but they never demonstrated where they could go back to back.
Yeah, San Antonio is weird because I do consider them like a dynasty, but it's a weird dynasty because they never won consecutive championships. Like every other year they would win, but they were always in there. It's just something. It's just
a menacing presence.
Weird. Yeah, especially when they beat the Heat in 2014. I mean, they went back-to-back finals against the Heat, and then they lose the first time, and then they get back there, and then they make it happen. So yeah, that's Spurs. Yeah,
Spurs.
Yeah,
Spurs.
Weird. Yep. So move on to the 08-09 season. They go 65-17. So All-Star Game MVP. Shaq and Kobe team up together again in the West. And they win co-MVPs in Phoenix. So they're back together having fun, and it's an exhibition. February, Kobe dropped 61 at the Garden, and that's a big deal. Do you remember? Since that was in our backyard, I still trying to remember, was I at that game or not? I want to say so bad I was, but I was like, I don't think I was, because I had like Knicks season tickets back in the day, but I didn't have them then, but I still got the games, and I want to say I was at that game, but I can't remember. But it was, I remember that. I remember when Kobe came, I remember like people just like basically cheering for Kobe. And talk about like just like the Garden appeal. When any visiting player comes, it's like a showtime. That's why it hurts as a Knicks fan. It's like, why don't you just come play here? You play at the Garden every single night of your career. And they'd be like, nah. But do you remember watching that game since it was locally in our backyard? Or?
I actually around that time I was living in Rochester, New York. So but I obviously still anytime Lakers play the Knicks, you tune in. And it was just, Kobe, that's like players give their best efforts at the Garden because of the historical legacy that building.
I'm sorry, that just bothers me so much. Because, everybody comes here, they don't want to stay here. They love to visit.
That's a fact.
Yeah, so that was Jules. Were you around watching that game, or you?
Yeah, I remember watching that game. It was just flawless effort, man. It was just really one of those moments. When you watch one of them games, you can tell by the like 3 minutes left in the first quarter, you watching something special. You can just tell when somebody got it, he had it. It was like, and it's back to those certain moments. Every great player needs that moment in the Garden. You know what I'm saying?
Jordan had it. LeBron
wasn't enough for him, so he needed to have that. And I love, even when Melo had 62, one of my favorite memes is Melo taking a fit and it's Kobe.
I do remember that one.
It's the Garden.
That whole year, basically, go to the playoffs. Utah in 5, Houston in 7, Denver in 6, and then you get to the finals in Orlando. Orlando in 5, win the championship. Kobe wins his first NBA Finals MVP. So that's more. So that's the 4th championship you witness as fans, and then you guys are on top of the world.
That one felt good too. That one feels. I love that one. These two I love the most, even though it's the 3P. I love these two the most because I stood with Kobe and he got it on his own. Went through the pain and fire.
That's the big one. Yeah, that's the big one. It's like he couldn't do it without Shaq or couldn't do it without that being the leader, and he did it.
And after Shaq got his with the Heat, the pressure was on. So I love these two the most. I really.
Yep.
Love these student moms.
Following year, they get better. They get Ron Artest, who changes his name to Meta World
Wait,
Peace.
not to cut you off, but I just want to. This is my favorite Laker team because being a Queens Laker fan, I used to always get messed. But we had two Queens, Artest and Odom.
Yep,
So,
that's so true.
It was like this is the Queens Lakers for me.
Yep, yeah, that's
like,
good. Whenever your hometown, yeah, no, I that's definitely the way I would have saw it. But yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, so Meta goes there. Remember the first round they beat OKC in 6, but that's when Meta elbows the hell out of James. And it's not, he didn't do it intentionally. He was excited, and then wow,
I still think he did it intentionally, but that's neither here nor there. That's 10 years ago, man.
Well, Meta's a hell of an actor. Did you see a Showtime documentary?
No, I haven't.
Classic.
Oh,
it's fire.
You watch it, right? It's fire because it breaks down. It breaks down everything. Even like as me and you, Julio, are Queens kids. The same day he started, like how he grew up in Queensbridge.
Mm-hmm.
But he used to play with Capone's dad or something like that.
It just seemed the radius of just everybody that was in Queensbridge at that time was just like they showed the map.
Queensbridge has like Hall of Fame. You got Nas, you got Ron Artest. Like there's a lot of guys come out that project. It's amazing, man. I think I should move there and raise my son in Queensbridge. It'll be something. But that's how it is. Well, yeah, OKC in 6, sweep Utah, conference finals, Phoenix in 6, then Boston again. So the rivalry continues, man, and that was all 7 games. Lawrence, talk to me about those full 7 games and how like that series, especially the rivalry's back. Man.
I think the thing that stuck out to me the most about that series was how Powell changed, how he morphed in a 2-year stretch. Whereas you look at the 08 finals against KG, and you could tell that he was outmatched, outclassed. But 2 years later, like he was like giving it to KG and those guys right back. And I felt like that was like the big difference in that series. Artest, obviously, having Artest versus Ariza. We had our Ariza in 09. We had Artest the following year. Artest gave us a little bit more toughness as well.
Yes.
It was. I think that to me, honestly, I love the 09 finals because it was Kobe's first one without Shaq. But I feel like 2010 is something like it was like from the finals to he had a game against Phoenix in Game 6 in the conference finals where Kobe, the degree of difficulty on some of those shots he made, and he hit one shot on the baseline in front of the Suns coach Alvin Gentry. And I remember he slapped Gentry on the butt, like tapped him real quick, and like Alvin Gentry started laughing, like, "Yo, man, you about to eliminate me, but fuck, you're so good, man, you're great."
That was a good one. And Jules, like you said, like Meta finally holding up the trophy. He was like basically the character of the whole team because I remember him being like doing interviews like I would like to thank my therapist.
It was what made that so special was because it was the year before and he was the Rockets and he was just giving Kobe such a hard time and he was like just so in his face. And like they said in the documentary, when he lost, he called Kobe.
He called him, I remember. He's like, "Yo, can I get down?
Can I get down?" You know what I'm saying? So just to see how that evolved and then for him to get there and to be there with Lamar and then you could see that it felt kind of like when Rodman came to the Bulls. It was like that kind of feeling, even though it was just for that one. It wasn't like a 3-peat, but it was just that one season. We won the chip with Artest. It felt like it just was that energy. It was just what was needed. It was just a it factor that he brought. It just felt like that Game 7 where he made them big shots. It was only fucking right. Redemption, and that's what those 2 championships are. Both stories of redemption for all the players involved. Gasol, Artest, Odom. Those are redemption titles. That's why I love them more than anything. And for Phil, too, to be like, yo, I did it again. You know what I mean? Like,
And you didn't hear the bad mouthing about Kobe anymore. Like Kobe, like his slate was kind of clean after that. You know what I'm saying? You really didn't hear too much anybody like saying anything bad. Is like, you know, like after. Go ahead, Lawrence.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, yeah. I think in 2010 when he won that second championship, I think if you hated him, you still had to respect him. But the NBA had a new villain in town. His name was LeBron James. You know what I mean?
Yep. After him going to Miami, he took the heat off Kobe.
He took the heat off Kobe.
Yep.
Like nobody thinking about me, like that Chris Rock bit. Nobody thinking about me.
And like the villain, man. Ask Isaiah Thomas. Ask LeBron. Ask Kobe. Villain ain't that bad, man.
Yep, really isn't. Yep. Really isn't. So, yeah. So that was a good one. Following year, not as good. Kobe wins their fourth All-Star Game MVP in LA at the Staples.
JJ Barea, you flop.
Yeah, they swept by Dallas. Yeah. JJ was a bad man. One of those little dirty, pesky dudes. Yep. They get swept by Dallas, and Lamar Odom wins the sixth man, and then Phil Jackson he decides he's done. Doesn't coach again. He comes over to New York to sabotage the Knicks. So, sorry
about that.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry about that. That hurt too.
Yeah. So following year, 2011, 2012, Mike Brown, formerly from Cleveland, takes over. Strike short in season. Yep. They trade Odom, then they trade Derek Fisher. Get to the playoffs. They beat Denver in 7, but they lose to OKC in 5. That's the Thunder team with Durant, Harden, and Westbrook that goes to the finals. And don't pull it off. The following year gets interesting because now you get to do a sign and trade for Steve Nash in the offseason, and you get Dwight Howard. You trade for that. So when you look at that lineup, that's another like kind of like that 04 Lakers team. You get 4 like your roster is 4, you know, either bona fide all-star to Hall of Fame players in Nash, Meta, Gasol, Kobe, and Howard. That's on paper, that team is like, oh yeah, give them another championship right away.
Well,
how do you feel about the offseason? Yeah.
I think there's a couple things that we got to look into in regards to that. Like Nash was, you know, I think the team would have obviously been a lot better, but Nash hurt himself really early in that season. But the other thing I want to say is I don't even think we would have been a much better team if it wasn't for basketball reasons, you know, and basketball reasons obviously is the Chris Paul deal that should have taken place.
Yes,
a year and a half
Chris Paul deal that got shut down. Yeah.
And you know, we're not even in the hunt for Steve Nash if we have CP3 and you know, imagine
different story, man.
So if we have Chris Paul, Kobe, and then we figure out, you know, how to get Dwight Howard, you know, now maybe the 2012, you know, 13 NBA Finals isn't San Antonio Heat, it's Lakers Heat, because I mean, we would have.
That's what I thought. That's what going in. That's what I thought. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I at that point, I mean, it was more so. I think quote unquote Kobe was supposedly chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan, trying to get the 6th ring, which was but you know, it was 2012-13 was a tough season because Kobe tears his Achilles that year, man. So
yeah, that whole squad. Nash only played 50 games, and Kobe was injury riddled. I know Dwight Howard. That's probably his only year there, and he hated it. They were beefing. Dwight Howard's numbers weren't as great. It was just and it showed. Mike Brown got fired after 5 games. Then Bickerstaff takes over like 5 games, goes 4-1. Then D'Antoni takes over for the rest of the year. But it was just a terrible, terrible season, and they get swept first round by San Antonio. But that same year, Kobe also passes Wilt Chamberlain to become the 4th all-time leading scorer in the league. So that's disappointing. The year after, the 13-14 season's even worse because Kobe injured like what the first game. He plays 6 games that year.
Mm-hmm.
6 games, and Nash only plays 15.
Yeah.
So that's another team that and you as Lakers fans seen the success. Now it's going back to the days with Eddie Jones and then Exel, where it's like, oh man, even worse than that. You guys get worse. Yeah, you get worse than that. So you guys are like, oh my goodness, like I guess from a fan perspective, it's kind of tough, right?
Oh, I'll let Julio.
Without a doubt, that was the Lakers. That when Kobe was going all them games, that was the first time I ever went to a Laker game, and he wasn't there.
Yep, you talked about it's like you got him as a Knicks game. You finally get to see your guy, live and in the flesh. And
I never got to see him live, man.
Never got to see him there. That sucks. So Kobe. Kobe only 6 games, Nash 15, D'Antoni's out, man. The following season, Byron Scott gets hired. Julius Randle, your first round pick, gets hurt his first game. Another Kobe injured riddle season. He only plays 35. Another just missing the playoffs. Year after that, 2015, 2016, you get this good thing. You get the second pick with D'Angelo Russell. Are you excited with the Russell coming in?
I was hyped. I remember he was in Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, with him and Greg Oden. Yep. Yeah. No, not him and Greg Oden. No, I'm wrong. No. I'm mixing him up with Mike Conley. Sorry.
No, but I remember being very hyped for D'Angelo Russell. I was really like, yo, I can't wait for him to go crazy. I'm like, this is perfect. Like this is good for aging Kobe. But that boy went to, that boy did what he did.
Yeah, snitching. And then just snitching out here, and then yep. So but the thing is, that's Kobe's last season. Last season, he's one of the few to go out maybe like a Derek Jeter, like honored that whole season, or Mariano Rivera, just honored that whole season. Even the Staples Center they put on the floor, both his numbers 8 and 24 on the floor for most of that season. That's fun. A story I had that's I actually went out there when the Knicks were out there and saw Kobe play. So that was a fun moment for me to see Kobe's last game, and the Knicks won that game. That was maybe happy because I saw Jose Calderon hit the he hit the game winner for us.
I remember that bullshit.
Yeah, because lucky for me, and like my wife has a longtime friend that works for the Lakers, so I've been out there a few times because of her, and the seats were like really, really good, man. So my experience, the Garden's a great place to watch a game, but Staples Center is right behind it. It's I hope you guys one day will get to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's an experience because the pageantry of the Lakers and the history. I like the PA announcer, very monotone. If you hear, it's like he doesn't go Kobe Bryant, he goes Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a different. It's a very traditional vibe. The way that there's a you feel at the Garden, the same way you feel aura at Staples Center, and it's dope. So one day, you guys will experience it, and mark my word, even now it's an awesome experience. So
soon come.
Kobe's last season, well celebrated. How did you feel seeing Kobe go his last season, even though it wasn't the best, but it was still this is the end of an era.
I was just happy that he made it through the season. I wasn't, based on the fact that the last few seasons he wasn't he was playing, 30 games, 6 games. I was just like keep him pieced together so he can make it to the final game of the season, which I feel like he totally deserved. So
that final game against Utah was heavily televised too. It was just a big deal.
Well, that was interesting because Golden State was going for the record of 73 wins, and the Lakers was playing Kobe's final game. So
that was a big debate. What do you watch? Do you watch the as a Laker fan? I know what you're going to pick.
Oh, yeah.
But me from the outside looking in, do I watch Golden State make history, or do I watch Kobe in his final game? And I rather watch Kobe in his final game. I think because that's an end of an era, a legendary player. Golden State was still like, oh, they could probably do this again. So it wasn't. It wasn't. It didn't. I cared more about Kobe because that's the last time you'll ever see Kobe. It's not the last time you'll see that Golden State Warrior team. So yeah. So that was. I remember that was a big deal. So following year, 16-17, they hired Luke Walton after having success while Steve Kerr was out. When he was coaching Luke Walton, they hired Luke Walton, get the second pick with Brandon Ingram. Yeah. How did you feel go about in that? I'll start with Julio. How did you feel going in with Luke Walton and Brandon Ingram as the pick?
I knew he was rebuilding, so I liked Brandon. I thought it was a nice pick. I like Luke Walton being. It was just young. It felt like young energy. Even then, I was hoping Lonzo, because that's even when the Lonzo train was starting to get rolling. Like, so that young team, I was really, because I done been through even though it was a short rebuilding process. You know, this is like a real, like this is my first experience with like rebuilding. Like we ain't even have a Nick Van Exel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Another sad thing that happened that year, they fired Kupchak after all those years. So,
yeah, well, you know, I mean, that time is, you know, it's. I'm not sure if Dr. Bus had passed away at this point, but
he did.
That's what I'm saying.
Before that, yeah.
You know, so you got like Dr. Jerry Buss is no longer there. You know, there's infighting between his son and and Jeannie. Like, you know, you have Kobe's no longer
and Jeannie
there.
was still with Phil at the time, right?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure of their relationship timeline, but
yeah.
You know, there was so much, you know, Kobe wasn't there anymore. It was a young team. You knew it was going to be a rebuilding process. You just hoped that the rebuild wasn't like a Celtics or Pistons rebuild where it took, you know,
it took
15 years.
15 years.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Because the following year they draft Lonzo. I got hyped with Lonzo. I do like Lonzo. I just, you know, he's just his dad. You know what I'm saying? A bit extra, you know what I'm saying? And that probably what makes Lonzo look bad, and it probably in his head, like, is a distraction. But when you get Lonzo, I'm like, I compare Lonzo to, like, you know, maybe a Jason Kidd, just like Jason Kidd with hops, basically Jason Kidd with bungees. Just good. I remember when they did come to the Garden, and I did see Lonzo, and I remember
that was a fun game.
Yeah, and Lonzo, I think he was close to a triple-double, or he had a triple-double, caught an alley-oop, and LeVar Ball comes out at halftime, and everybody and their mother is swarming for to get a piece of LeVar. So it's that Ball status was crazy, man. It was but like you know, but you got Lonzo, and then you get Kuzma too. Yeah, and so Kuzma, he had a great it's like he was good, man. He still is potential to be good. Yeah. So
it brings you back to like when you see those young teams, like you said, it brings you back to like the Nick Van Exels, the Eddie Joneses, the Eldon Campbells, the L3, like this team. Obviously, the expectations are extremely low, but they're fun young group of kids to watch.
That's and the potential is there.
Yeah, so a lot of fun.
Yep. So it even gets better. 2018, off season signs LeBron. LeBron is up in Cleveland. You knew it was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? It was just it's a matter of time. When he was talking about, I guess, he lived in LA. His son went to school there, so you knew the Lakers were definitely going to get him. So when you heard that, Lawrence, how'd you feel? Like that was a big deal, of course. Like,
of course. I think just getting LeBron James automatically turns your team into an instant contender, and it obviously sped up the rebuilding process by 5-6 years easily.
Easily. So you get LeBron. First season's kind of weird though. It's kind of like it's weird to see LeBron go to a team and not have a chance. So I guess LeBron with this mesh of young guys like with Ball and Kuzma and Ingram just didn't work out. And LeBron, what he stops playing after March or something like that. He just just sits out for the rest of the year.
Well, remember they played a Christmas Day game at Golden State, and LeBron hurts himself, but they are cooking Golden State.
Cooking Golden State.
And they are beating Golden State, but he hurt his groin, I believe, and I think that's what I think they would have made the playoffs. They would have figured out a way to make the playoffs.
Like that team, I feel like we would have won. We would have definitely. I was looking forward to seeing the Warriors again because we cooked them. LeBron got hurt and we still won.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny, you got to think the wear and tear, just like similar to
going crazy. It was leading them.
Yeah, you got to think about the wear and tear, for example, with Kobe playing all his life, playing basketball from high school straight into the pros, and most of the time going deep into the playoffs and winning, and not to mention the Olympics because he always played in the Olympics. So like the wear and tear and the durability of a guy to play that long is pretty impressive. Same with LeBron, going deep. Remember that's he's coming off of 8 straight finals appearances. So you got to think of all the mileage. And remember, those Cleveland teams, those last couple of years were hobbling in where he was the only team. And you see on paper, those teams are like pretty like, other than LeBron, those teams are pretty, for finals teams, they're not stacked up. So that's a lot of wear and tear. So, when you look at it, he deserves to recuperate,
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So after that 2019 season, Magic also steps down as president of basketball operations. And then so there was like inside, like maybe he had a beef with Magic. I don't know. I don't think it was, but it was just a lot of rumors. So that was another thing. So the all-season 2019, they hired Frank Vogel, and then this puts him over the trade for Anthony Davis. They trade the young guys, which was rumored that 2019 season too. Remember they were like, I think a lot of players were pissed at LeBron because he wanted them out.
Well, that hurts the morale of any team, and when you're dealing with young players and LeBron's track record of having his team shuffle midseason, it messed up the chemistry of that team because no one trusted LeBron at that point.
That's true. So that was a tough one. So it was like nobody trusted LeBron, but draft day, which is important, you got not draft, but the Anthony Davis trade. You trade the 4th overall pick. You get they get Ingram, Ball, and Josh Hart, instant contenders for the following season. So
there you go.
And it starts off. Now we're in present time. Season starts off like the Lakers were the best team before this. Before the season abruptly ended. So and 2020, bottom line, it sucks. January 26th, Kobe Bryant dies tragically in a helicopter crash. We'll all remember moments like, where were you during 9/11, or where were you during the OJ trial, or just monumental moments. So, Jules, I'm gonna ask you first. Where were you when you found out the news that Kobe died? Yeah, I'm gonna pin it to Lawrence first. Where were you when Kobe died?
Coming back from the grocery store, and I saw, it was a sneaker Twitter that I follow, but I get phone notifications, and the tweet said, "Oh my God, please let this not be true." And I didn't know what it was, so I clicked on it because I was like, "That's insane." And then it led me to a TMZ article, and I saw, and I just I cried, I broke down, bro, and because I believed it immediately. I was like, "Son just tells me this is legit," and then my boy started texting me, and you start getting these texts, and and then a little bit later, I forgot Woj confirmed it. I saw the Woj tweet, and just one of those Sundays that you'll never forget. You cry, and you just don't want to do anything all day, man.
Yeah. All right, Julio, where were you when you heard the news about Kobe's passing?
So it was already a bad weekend. My man, a year ago, rest in peace, my man Trav, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, bro, lost him tragically. It was sad because it was a year anniversary since he passed. I was already feeling down, but it was ironic because I was on Twitter and I was looking at somebody posted the Kobe and Kanye. So then I got a text on my phone, and it was like, "Yo, you heard about Kobe?" I'm like, "What?" And then it was my man, it's Low Vega hit me up. He was like,
Yeah.
"Yo,
Shout
you
out to
heard
Love.
about Kobe? What you talking about?" He's like, "Spoke to your dad." What? Like, I said, "Well, all right, whatever." I go to Twitter. Ironically, the first thing I see when I open the Twitter is the commercial because it was the last thing I watched. And I'm going through Twitter. I'm not believing it. I go to ESPN. I'm not seeing nothing. I go to CNN. I'm not seeing nothing. But they talking about a crash happened. So I'm like, I couldn't believe it. So then I started getting calls. This is a situation like people call me like my family died when Kobe died. I was getting calls, flooded. I went to go get some roll. I'm stressed. I'm on the bus. And then I seen that the Spurs, Popovich did that second tribute. That's when I got emotional, started crying on the bus. And then I
Yeah.
was still good. I was shocked. And then it was that first game and they did the tribute in LA. And I remember just being there with my daughter watching it and crying so bad. My mother had to console me. It was just nasty. Because that's when it felt real. You know what I mean? It's still
Yeah.
surreal though.
Yeah, the impact Kobe had is just like amazing. It's just all like you said before, redemption with Kobe. It was Derek like a career where he did so much stuff. Like he was starting to build a brand. He won an Oscar. You know what I'm saying, for the short film. Yeah, so he was building a brand off the court, and just the stories you hear about Kobe just being so disciplined and just excelling to get you could tell he had a Michael Jordan influence.
Oh, totally.
But it just post basketball, he was just trying to excel in everything in everything he could possibly get his hands on, and it's pretty amazing to see. So it's one of those days, I'll never forget. I mean, and another thing with his daughter too. It's not only that, but his daughter, who is I think was committed to going to UConn. So I think UConn did something for Gigi. I mean, they had the private funeral held, February 7th, and they had a public memorial at Staples, which was big. I mean, you see all these guys just come to support, speeches from Shaq and Michael and Magic, and not only that, the LA altogether, because he belonged to that city. You know what I'm saying? Played it all his life there. So he's like Hollywood people like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that. It's pretty, just to be honored. And then the All-Star game comes up. That's a big one because 4 MVPs in the All-Star game. A nice gesture. They Team LeBron wears number 2 for Gigi, and they wear number 24 for Kobe. So that was and they renamed the award. The MVP award is now the Kobe Bryant Award. So that's very special too. So yeah, it's a tough one, but 2020, like I said, once Kobe died, it just seemed the whole year just went downhill, man. Yeah, just downhill, man. Yeah, it's rough, man.
That's why I hope be able to start this season up to win. That's a fact. Let's win this chip for Kobe.
Yeah, man. So, guys, it's been fun, man. Now, probably the end of the year, the NBA season might start. So that might be another championship for you guys. Are you excited if it does go down?
If they can bring, I mean, hopefully, we bring basketball back safely for the players, everyone involved. And of course, I mean, who wouldn't love another championship, man? But let's get to resuming the season first before I even think about that.
That's true. You never know because everybody, it's a clean slate. Everybody, like a lot of these guys have, courts in their backyard, but you don't know. You know what I'm saying? It could be definitely a mystery team can win. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely interesting. Guys, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It was a long, It was a good one. Definitely a good one. You know, the Lakers, all the history, there's a lot to talk about. You know, there's probably stuff we didn't even touch that, you know, but I figured we covered your timeline, you guys as fans. You guys are happy most of the time, so that's good. All right, Lawrence, quick, anything you want to plug?
Oh, just listen to some podcasts and that's it, man.
All right, Julio, anything you want to plug, bro?
Follow me, Heartbreak Julio, on everything. Don't Try This at Home Radio podcast. I gotta shout out my guys because it's not just me. It's a lot more harder Laker fans. Shout out my guys, Ray. Shout out my nigga Corey Scott. Shout out my boy Mike Z. Shout out my boy Christian. It's a whole crew. It's names I forget. It's a whole crew. Shout out my man Vert. It's a lot of us Laker fans out representing in New York. Love to Lawrence. It's a beautiful thing. Just show us love. We got music. I got out right now. Just rock. I got joints coming, bro. Feel me? I salute Johnny Mac. You know, call you Johnny Square Garden. So
all right. Yo, thank you guys for coming on. This was fun, man. I appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll hopefully we'll be back watching ball again, man.
There you go.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, man. Peace, man.
All right, that was Lawrence DeLoach, Heartbreak Julio. Fun show, guys. Thank you for riding with us again. Tune in for the next one. Hope you like it. Stay safe out there and love each other. All right. Bye.